Okay, so let's talk a little bit about real estate taxes. Real estate taxes there on page 290. We're going to talk, there are two types of tax liens. The first one is ad valorem. An ad valorem tax means add value. Means add value. So your taxes on $1 million home are based on $1 million. Taxes on a $100,000 home are based on $100,000. All right? So that it's an ad valorem tax, meaning out value. There are people that get exempted from paying taxes. Government buildings, religious entities, hospitals, colleges. Anybody that asks if you can get the right permit. You guys know the Subaru Isuzu plant sits in Lafayette. It's a real big plant that 300 people. They make the Subaru Isuzu cars right there at the exit into Purdue. You know why it's sitting in Lafayette and not in Indianapolis? Lafayette you from real estate taxes.
Usually it's for so many years.
Yeah, usually they do it for so many years, 10 years, 5 years, 8 years. They can do whatever they want. It's the city. So imagine what the city said. You move this big-ass plant up here and bring all those people and families, we will exempt you from paying real estate taxes because we know you all are going to go to movies, buy groceries, buy houses, buy gasoline, all of that stuff. So the city will get it back in the form of other stuff. And Indianapolis said, nah, we're not really interested in doing that. That's why it's sitting in Lafayette. So anybody can get a tax abatement if they ask. There were talks about the Amazon trying to get a tax abatement. What was the other one? The football stadium. When they built the oil can, he wanted real estate taxes abated. Oh, I'm bringing so many jobs, so many people downtown, all this other stuff. So when they create the taxing process, there are several different things that we got to talk about.
Just announced New York and Washington and national components of the big Amazon HQ too.
Oh, really? So I heard the other day Washington, D.C. wants to become a state. Yeah, make everybody a state. You're a state. You're a state.
Break California into 5 states.
Everybody's a state.
I recognize myself as a state. So.
Yeah. I identify as my own state. I want a tax abatement. Now, when you figure the ad valorem tax, there's some math that's going to happen.
Yes.
All right? Yes, math. The ad valorem tax is comprised of 3 components. All right? So when you figure someone's annual taxes on their ad valorem, and I can never spell this. I don't care. I can remember Newton's 3 laws of physics and all that. I can remember I remember every one of my credit card numbers. I can never remember how to spell that dang word. It's ad valorem. It is the assessed value. So write your equation, ad valorem equals the assessed value. Let's talk about the assessed value for a second. This is a new value that I'm going to introduce today. The biggest component and problem that you will see is most math questions use a different valuation. Capital gains, we use sales price. Loan origination, we use the loan amount. Taxes, we're actually using this thing called the assessed value. The assessed value is something you guys cannot calculate. I'm a level 1 assessor for the state. I can do this. You guys can't. A lot of math involved, all right? So for the exam, on the good part is they will give it to you. It's going to be given to you. But don't get caught up in the confusion factor. When they say something like the house sold for 180, was appraised at 176, you borrowed 140 and was assessed at 118, you got to realize that there are 4 different values they just gave you. When you're dealing with ad valorem taxes, it is the assessed value, what the state thinks it's worth. Now, we're not going to argue about where that number came from, because it came from, ta-da, there it is. All right? All you need to understand is the assessed value is what you would use when figuring someone's taxes. All right? You take the assessed value, you multiply it by this thing called the equalization factor. The equalization factor is a factor that is given to every property to kind of normalize that house. So let me give you an example. If we said every person in here was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,500 square foot in this housing addition, so we're going to tax you all the same. That's how we start. But wait a minute. Kelsey's got a 2-bedroom house, so we've got to bring the value of her home up to meet ours. Her equalization factor might be above 1. It's trying to bring the value up. Miguel's got a 4-bedroom house. His is bigger than ours, so we got to bring the value down to meet ours. You may have an equalization factor of less than 1. Right? Everybody understands that an equalization factor of 1 means everybody's equal. If I want to raise the value, multiply by 1.2. If I want to lower your value, multiply by 0.8. If we don't talk about the equalization factor, guess what it is? 1. It's just assumed to be equal. Here's another good part. It will be given to you in the exam as well. You guys cannot figure the equalization factor. There's like 14 points that go into calculating it. Architecture style, things like that. So just assume it's given to you. So far we're doing pretty good. The first one's the assessed value. It's given to you. Multiply it by the equalization factor. It's given to you. You multiply it, a third multiplication, by this thing called a tax rate. Tax rate. The tax rate is actually dictated to you by state law. Anybody know what our tax rate is? 1% on residential property. 2% on investment, 3% on commercial. Sounds right? So we already know our state law says it's 1%. But everybody in the world can jump on that 1% if they have legal right. We just had an election. Perry Township voted to add their taxes so they could pay for more teachers and translators because we have a large Burmese contingency, so that we in Perry Township upped our own taxes. Everybody can add on to it, okay? Environmentals, new library, new hospital, new roads, all of that. But the tax rate is expressed in the term of a mill. A mill is 1/1000th of a dollar. 1/1000th of a dollar, or 0.001. So 40 mils is 0.040. That would be 40 mils. What is also 0.04? What's another most common term you guys see that? 0.04 is also 4%, right? So 10 mils is 1%. And I just told you our state law says, what's our tax rate? 1%. It really says it's 10 mils. So let's do a fun. If the assessed value is $125,000, the equalization factor is 0.8, 0.8. And the tax rate is 125 mils. Your client asks you, hey Raymond, I want to know how much my monthly house payment is. Can you please figure my monthly taxes so I can add it to my PITI or my P&I? So the equation for you sitting at home, ad valorem tax is your assessed value times the equalization factor times the tax rate. $125,000 assessed value. 0.8 equalization factor at 125 mils. The question is, your client says, how much are my monthly taxes so I can add it to my P&I? Very common question. Now's when I need that. Who got an answer? Do what? We have an answer of $1,041. What else do we have? What do you have? We also have a 12,500. Not even close to the first one. Josh, don't say anything. Who got 1,041? Raise your hand. 2 of you. 3 of you. Who got 12,500? Raise your hand. Yeah. They're both right, except they're both wrong. What was the question I asked you? I asked you the monthly tax rate. The answer is $1,041. Because you take 12,500 divided by 12, you get $1,041. Answer the question I ask you. I've told you this several times. The test will get you on this. If you literally multiply 125,000 times 0.8 times 0.125, you get $12,500. But that's the annual rate. You got to divide that by 12, you get $1,041 a month for taxes. Seems pretty high. Why does it seem high? Look at the tax rate. 125 mils more commonly is, to you guys, is what? 12.5%. That's a very high, considering I just told you ours in Indiana is 1. All right? But you did the math right. And I'm telling you, watch that trick, because the math is simple, and I guarantee you 12,500 is on the exam. All right? It's $1,041 is the amount. Any questions on how that worked? Are we good? All right. I'm going to change the audio, leave the slide.